to Still Dripping Happy Hour.
Welcome to episode 157 of the Still Dripping Happy Hour, brought to you by the Printify Shop, right, Hayes?
Yeah, that's right. We have a store, and you're supposed to go look at our merch, and you should buy our merch.
Yeah,
we'll come back to that.
All right, we'll come back to that.
Guest.
Before that,
Forget all that.
We've got a very special guest, somebody that I've been following on Instagram, and truly, the first time that I was like, oh, we should get this guy on the podcast was sometime last year. You went on a trip with your dad to Vegas, maybe? Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And I saw this very long post. We can go into it later if you want to, or we can skip it if you don't. But saw this long post and I started reading it, and I was like, wow, this is awesome. And it actually might have been, I don't remember the timing exactly, but it must have been like right around the time that my dad passed away. So that was an extra measure of, wow, that's really cool that this man's dad did that for him and with him, and it looked like a great time. So that's what caught my attention. Then I started looking at this Instagram, and there's all these extremely rare dunks and a few other Air Force Ones and all kinds of stuff mixed in. But anyways, this guy, we'll get into that later. This is Jake Zani of Shoe Culture 615. Welcome,
Yes,
Jake.
Having me. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. Chop it up.
He's looking like a young Travis Barker is what this guy looks like. I feel like he's a drummer. You got to have a drum set back there somewhere.
Dude, I wish. I unfortunately never really was capable to get into music like that. I wish I was, though. I love music. But
you fooled me, buddy. You look like
I tried to play guitar when I was younger, but I think I was just too ADHD, to be completely honest. Just all over the place.
Yeah.
All over the place. So
I was just too unskilled when it comes to music to do anything.
Hey, another very interesting thing here right now. We got 3 unicorns, 3 Nashville natives. We just found out.
True.
Right?
True. Yes, sir.
Franklin,
not
Mason's Brentwoodish.
South Nashville, Brentwood. Yeah.
That'll do, right? Not normal nowadays.
No.
Well, Jake, just to kick it off, we already said where you're from. So tell us a little bit about yourself, maybe throw in a sneaker origin story and go for it.
So I appreciate it. So let's see, where do I start? Like we said, born and raised in Nashville. Love this little town that has turned into a bustling metropolis recently. I went to high school down in Franklin, basic high school, nothing crazy, homeschooled a little bit of my life. And kind of, I guess I had a very easy childhood. My dad was lucky to have a super good job, so we were super provided for, except for when we went to Mississippi. My dad made a bad investment that kind of linked him with a bad partner, and it took us out there because we ran into some issues with the investment that he invested in, and learned a lot of learning lessons there. Learned a lot about being alone. We lived way out in the middle of nowhere, so definitely learned about, just the ins and outs of being your own friend, finding your own stuff to do. And needless to say, once we moved back from Mississippi, I really got into cutting grass when we were in Mississippi, and my dad really leaned on me heavily to try and build my own business cutting grass, and that's exactly what I did. So I was cutting grass probably as a middle schooler, but really from sophomore year to sophomore year of college was heavily cutting grass. So that's why I've learned to do exactly what I've done in terms of at least scaling a business. So I did that, and I actually sold off all my yards to another kid that was about my age. And so we did a little swap. I'm sure he made a little bit more money off of my yards, but that was my introduction to business as is. And then I was kind of just in the dark about what to do after high school. My parents really wanted me to go to college. And of course now they would have told me, don't worry about it. But just because I had to know, I knew deep down that I was never going to have a job, really. I did have a few jobs. I worked there's a shop, I'm not sure how if everyone will know what this is, but there's a shop called Citizen in downtown Franklin.
Oh yeah, we know Citizen.
Yeah, it's a little hype store. I was actually probably, I mean, the second employee there.
Isn't that Toby Mac? Doesn't he own that?
Yep. That was Toby Mac's store, and they were great guys there. I didn't see Toby much at all, but did have the opportunity to work there. That's honestly what got me in. I always really liked clothes. I always really liked fashion. Didn't really know how to express that, especially being in Mississippi. The formative years of like getting your style, getting into stuff, it was all looked down upon there. You were seen as, let me put it in quotes, gay, if you had any sort of personal opinion about style and whatnot. So once I moved back here, I really noticed I liked it a whole lot. I started working at Citizen. It wasn't exactly my groove, but it got me into it. Then I worked at Nordstrom here in Green Hills. I worked there for about a year, and realized that I hate that as well. And went from, I started in the women's designer, and then it went down to sell men's designer shoes. So another little, slow push into getting into shoes. I really fell in love with designer shoes heavily, which is funny because nowadays I would tell you the exact opposite.
Did you hate the retail part of it? Is that what you hated?
I did.
Yeah.
To be honest, for me, more so, it was pushing things on people that they didn't really need.
Welcome to retail sales 101. It sucks.
I think it sucks, especially when things are so expensive and you have guys. Really, my demographic at Nordstrom was not people that should have been shopping there, at least the men's shoe department. And I say that from me being a person that shouldn't be shopping there because I don't have the net worth to be doing that. And it's funny because a lot of these shoes that we're working with nowadays, if you can get retail, you can get them for a solid price, but it's still kind of expensive here or there. Yeah. But needless to say, that was my introduction to it. And then I started working at Vans, and which is another store within the same mall, and realized that was my final goodbye. I knew that I hated it after that.
Okay.
Just kind of getting, not necessarily taken advantage of, but like I just knew I was a harder worker than anyone who was working there. And
you were meant for something bigger.
Yeah, it wasn't reflecting to me, So anyways, needless to say, I ended up going to Lipscomb for college. I went to community college.
Dude.
Yeah, let me rephrase that. I went to Columbia State for the first 2 years and then transferred to Lipscomb. So community college.
I'm a Lipscomb grad.
Do you know Landon Parrish?
No. That sounds familiar though.
Well,
he would have been older than you, but he would have been like a recruiter or something. I don't know what he was at that point.
To be completely honest, no, the only thing this ties in with me not knowing exactly what I'm doing in terms of school. I didn't step foot on the campus until the first day of school. So
no worries.
Just did not mess with school at all. But fortunately enough, I did go to Lipscomb and did go to those exact classes I signed up. The only reason I'm doing what I'm doing is because of that and the fact that I was in an entrepreneurship class. And one of the people in my group, we were supposed to come up with a little, business of our own, make some money, see who could make the most money in the semester. And needless to say that someone mentioned shoe cleaning, and the rest of the group thought that was a bad idea. So I decided that it was a good idea.
Yeah.
And, it was right before COVID started, literally right before. I knew I had a passion for shoes, clearly. I knew I loved them. To some degree, whether it was wearing, whether it was collecting or cleaning, what it was, I enjoyed it. And so, I took that person's idea and ran with it. And it's funny, the idea we actually did in our entrepreneurship class failed completely. So but this idea has worked out perfectly great for me. And it's funny, one of the girls in that group reached out to me recently and we talked about it, just talking about how it was funny that went down the way it did. But yeah, after that, after I graduated Lipscomb, I mean, it's all kind of said and done since then. I've just been working, and really honestly, as soon as I figured out, this was a money-making opportunity, like I said, it was right before COVID. I don't know how to explain. I just felt this like boom coming, and it was coming. And in perspective, it was, let me put it in perspective. When I first started getting into this, and I first was like, okay, I'm going to clean shoes. This is going to be my thing. I started getting into SBs because I just enjoyed that model of shoe. So I went on StockX and bought my first SB ever. It was a Green Lobster. So it's just to show you I'm a little late into the game. But also I can tell you my knowledge is up there. But I bought a Green Lobster. I bought it OG All DS. It was $500. just to put things in perspective, that shoe now DSOG is $1,200 easily.
Yeah.
So just to show you, it was and it's funny, that was months before the boom. So all that to say, that's how I got into shoes. That's who gave me the idea. I mean, like I said, I did have some ideas. I just wasn't sure what the connection was, and cleaning made sense to me. So, and it's funny because the cleaning is just really the first level of it. That was just to get me introduced into it. And now once you start learning about these shoes, once you learn how to restore and stuff like that, you really realize that we've got this giant wave of shoes from the early 2000s that are starting to break down. All your classic 3s, all your classic 4s, 5s, all of those, you know, and including these SBs. These SBs are primarily what I niche on now, just because that's what I really love in terms of history, in terms of these things lasting. But I really like all the classics. So anything classic, I love.
Yeah.
I just don't like some shoes to work on just because there's so many different parts that go into fixing them. I really want the best for my customers, so I don't leave anything to question. Everything my customers hear is exactly what they need to hear, and you know, I don't do any runaround shit. I don't do any like half-seas. We're going to do it right, or we're not going to do it. So, and that's typically why a lot of people hitting me up just get referred out elsewhere, because I just want them to get the work done right and on time. You know, I actually had someone hit me up for a Doom reglue and repaint on the back panels, and I was like, dude, I took another shoe from him and was like, hey, this needs to go elsewhere because it's paint. He just hit me up yesterday and was like, hey, I'm glad you sent me elsewhere because it got done within 2 weeks and it looks fucking awesome. It looks awesome. And I was like, yeah, I wouldn't send you else I wouldn't send you the wrong way. So that's why I tell all my customers, you know, there's a lot of here and there with all these shoes, but I'm always going to try and do everyone right. So anyways.
Hey, is this your boy Eli? Is this your brother?
It is my brother.
Shout out to Eli.
Shout out to Eli. I agree.
Is he a sneaker guy too? You have other siblings, or is it just Eli?
Yeah, I mean, he is. Honestly, he's too broke to really be a sneaker guy right now.
Here we go. Talk that stuff.
I'm sure.
Eli. How old is Eli?
He's actually in his junior year of college, so got one more semester.
He's got an excuse to be broke.
You're close, Eli.
He does have an excuse.
You got it.
He does have an excuse. I've got one other brother that just graduated, and he actually just got a job and is about to move out to Denver. And then I've got a sister who lives in Chattanooga, and I'm the oldest out of everyone. So,
okay,
all right. And I was pretty close to my entire family. We had a really close relationship with each other, so we're definitely still in touch.
So your parents did they move back to Tennessee after the Mississippi crap, or?
Yeah, so they did. They moved. We were still all pretty young, so they did move back with us, of course. And then you know, they lived in that same spot for a long time. They recently, as of like, well, I guess recently is, but about 2 to 3 years ago, they sold their house, and now they went and bought a lake house on Smith Lake.
Oh, yeah, Smith Lake's awesome.
Yeah, they decided to move out in the middle of nowhere, but in a nice spot. So my dad they were just kind of, I mean, Franklin it changed a lot compared to 20 years ago. I mean, a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about all the roads that were single lane roads or 4-lane road or 2-lane roads now. So
Smith Lake was voted one of the top like 4 or 5 cleanest lakes in the United States. Yep. And it's in northern Alabama. It is absolutely beautiful.
It is very nice.
Low key.
Is that where your cabin's close to, Hayes? The cabin you go to?
No, not really. Not the one I go to.
Okay.
Our land is northwest Alabama, and this is like northeast. Yeah. So it's probably 200 miles.
Yeah. And my parents have always loved the lake. I always loved the beach. My dad had some investment properties at the beach when we were younger. So I was very lucky to experience a lot of my life of just not necessarily just vacationing, but we homeschooled my 5th grade and 6th grade year. So, you know, we did multiple trips out to the beach and stuff like that and just staying out there. But I say that because we had a rinky dink, like log cabin house on Tim's Ford Lake.
Your dad sounds like Hayes's dream. Hayes wants to be your dad.
I would imagine
going to the beach and the lake house.
Probably so.
I would imagine most boys definitely would enjoy my dad, especially like physical activity too. My entire family's heavily into running, so heavily. My brother just finished up. He's trying to, I can't remember. He's trying to qualify for Olympic timings in his half marathon.
Oh man.
Yeah, he just ran. I think he just ran an hour flat for his half marathon. I believe something crazy like that. Don't hold me to that because I could be definitely wrong. Should be paying more attention, but yes, that's what we're into mostly. My dad loves endurance running, so he's done multiple 100-mile runs and 50s and countless marathons. So,
Mason, what was the post that you saw about him and his dad that
I actually know what you're talking about. I do know what you're talking about. That was I actually think that was in July. It may not have been a full year ago. It's probably 7 months ago or so.
Yeah, that sounds right.
I think that's when it was because we believe we went for our birthday. Yeah.
So you can pause it and read this if you want to, but go ahead, keep going.
Yeah, so basically, I'm trying to think about what really brought this up. I think I would just mention my dad that I really like these cities, just like a lot of younger people do, right? I mean, New York, LA, Las Vegas, Miami, anywhere where it's popping is just fun to be at. I think I mentioned that to him, and he just wanted to give me experience. So we went out there, and he knew that I really wanted to go see Urban Necessities really bad. I think for a lot of sneakerheads, for anyone that's in the collecting world, something like Urban Necessities. I don't really love Cool Kicks as an organization, but Cool Kicks, stores like that just bring all of it together. To me, that's what I love. I love seeing it all together. It was awesome. So yeah, he knew I wanted to do that. So he took me out there. We just did some small gambling, looked around at some stores, and it was just fun to see the people, all the movement. A city like that seems like ideal for someone like me, just because there's constant hustle and bustle and constant people with money, just constantly everything. Although what I was noticing is no one had great shoes on, so maybe it's not exactly my demographic, but needless to say, it was a fun trip. So
that's awesome. Yeah, that's really cool. Man, that seems like a great time.
Yeah, I think that really. So I mean, that definitely was a fun experience. It was fun to at least go out and adventure a little bit. But really, what honestly was my more notable adventure last year, I think it was last year, had to have been last year, was I went out to one of my customers' houses out in LA and stayed with him for a week. Well, it was 8 days, and cleaned his entire. Well, not entire, but.
Is this the What the Dunks?
Yeah, that's my post with all the What the Dunks. So I went to one of my customers' houses and stayed out.
Travis Barker? Is it Travis Barker?
It's not. I'm still waiting to break into that realm of people. You know who I'm hunting after. I would really love an Offset or a Lil Yachty to hit me.
Oh, okay.
Dude, they've got so many shoes that they don't even know. Like, any sort of Air Force they ever post about, they're all toast. It's funny. It's just funny because all these things are falling apart underneath people's feet and they don't even really understand it. But it's just a matter of time until someone like that hits me up. I really do think that. I mean, I just finished. There's not many guys that can say they've done quite as much as I have in terms of high-end sneakers. I can tell you the other guys that have, because I've talked to them, because I know them, because I know this market pretty well. I don't know many other guys that have worked on, like, just for example, like this pair of shoes right here. I just finished up this swap.
Oh,
this is my, let's see, I've done 2 full re-glues on these, and I've done 3 or 4 swaps. But yeah, I mean, this, I guarantee you, and I really try not to get braggadocious, but no one has touched as many of these as I have. Maybe sellers have, but no restorer.
There's not that many out there, right?
Exactly. They say so, and this is an interesting part of lore that people always talk about. People say there's only 30 of these things. There's definitely not only 30 of these things. There's many more than that. People always say, because that number's mentioned so many times, that most of them are fake. Well, let me go ahead and tell you that breaking these down, you can tell what's fake and what's real. You just can. I can tell you that for a fact. So, like, all these Freddies that I've torn down, in my experience, they are legitimate. Now I have seen good reps go around, but yeah, I mean, just a prime example of pairs that, there's not many other people touching them. I mean,
well, you got a pair of Yeezys back here. You got
dude, I've got Yeezys are. It's funny. Yeezys are. I don't really know how to explain that. I constantly have at least 5 pairs of those with me. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. I've got 4 right now.
Yeah, we're definitely doing this in person next time.
Oh yeah, that's what I was saying. Yeah, but these bad boys are getting a midsole swap. So we just took off all the soles. That's the underneath it, spine of it all. But yeah, I mean, it's very, very cool.
What do you
pairs torn apart? So
what do you replace it with on a Yeezy?
Yeah, so that's a very good question. So this gets a little hairy as well. The replacements for now, a midsole replacement, you can get an actual Nike product, like an actual Nike product. But for the most part, when I'm telling people or when we're getting swaps done with Yeezys, we're getting replicas. Now, that does sound a little hairy, right? But like I tell all my customers, Nike is never, ever, never, ever, they're never, ever going to.
You don't have a choice.
Yeah, there's not going to be another choice. There's not going to be another place where you can get straps from. There never will be.
Yeah.
So, and that's why I try to express to my customers, you can definitely get a midsole from an actual, I think it's an Air Attack 2. I think that's the shoe. But the reason I tell people most of the time to just go for a replica is because this shoe, just like I told you earlier when we started, lots of shoes just have too many parts on them, and it makes it just a challenge. Mainly your 4s. 4s are a prime part. 4s, 12s with their side tabs, 7s with the back tabs, 2s with the entire. I mean, 2s are very much like this. They have a plastic spine all around the back. Anyways, I tell all my customers, get replicas. You're going to save yourself money down the line, because what we can do is we can use the midsole. So here's the midsole, right? That's the foam that goes in between the green sole and the upper. So you get to use the midsole, and then what do you have left over? Well, you've still got your strap left over, which means we can swap that down the way, because this will break. It always does. The plats seem to hold up the longest, though, out of the reds and the solars. And then the next part that will break, every single one of them will break, is the spine, which is going to be a problem. I know one other guy in Canada that actually swaps spines and does a killer job. I have not yet taken that on, just because that's not something that's falling apart heavily right now, but it's the next thing. So that's why I tell all my guys, like, don't waste your money in terms, because you're gonna have to buy a replica to get the spine and strap. So spend $200 there rather than 200 here and then 200 there. So it's kind of hard explaining that to people, I mean, that's the main reason why this one right here, like, this one didn't get swapped with a replica. This got swapped with another SB. So this one got swapped.
It's easy, right? Those are
right.
super
The
easy.
other stuff
match the color. And it's
Let me show you really quick. So this is an Iron Man SB. So this was its donor. So we normally I just take the soles off the Iron Man and cash them, but this is the original Freddy sole on the Iron Man now. So they've been swapped. So the only reason we did that is because you can see I don't know if you can see that here. You see that chunk?
Yeah.
Right
oh yeah.
Typically, whenever the white starts peeking through the black, I mean, it's not toast, but it's going to massively affect the price of it. So you can see that these soles aren't in crazy different. It's so hard to see, but it's not in crazy different shape. It's just that white's hidden, and so just that will give you, a few extra $1,000 or something like that, just depending on who's selling them. So, but yeah, I've been very fortunate to, I got my degree in marketing. So I kind of knew exactly how to attack this whole thing, right? When I started, I kind of saw everyone doing it the wrong way, right? Everyone was posting pictures of their cleans and whitens, right? I mean, good shit or good stuff. The main thing that not everyone did was just get in touch with the sellers. I started getting in touch with all these sellers who were kids, so it all worked out. It was super easy to not necessarily convince, but like get on the same page and I'm going to get you right. You'll get me right. And so needless to say, I just completely infiltrated every single one of those guys, and they passed me along to their customers, and it all worked out. I mean, that is why I'm working on high-end stuff, is because those guys, when I was first starting, I was starting to work on like off-white ones, like to me, an off-white one, Jordan 1, like I saw so many of those that like I'd be fine never seeing them again. Never. I've had hundreds of those pairs in here. So I've been very fortunate to pivot or sit myself where I did in terms of just getting close to these sellers. And I'm still working with them today. I mean, this is from a seller that I've worked so many times with. and been very fortunate to work on a lot of crazy pairs. And something funny that I mentioned that is he's actually this guy. His name's Chris. Chris was actually one of the first ones to send me a Paris SB. And funny enough, that was the only time I have ever had. Now, knock on some freaking wood here, but it's the only time I've ever had anything stolen in the mail. Only time. It was the only time, and it wasn't even in the state. It was in his state when he left. But yeah, that just goes to show that this seller trusts me with everything. I mean, he literally lost a shoe on its way to me, and granted that
was just a shoe, right? That's like the shoe.
Yep, he learned a lot from that because he didn't insure that package either. So that was a whole lot of fun.
Gosh, so my stomach dropped when you just said that.
That's man, well, I mean, I remember when they showed up, I mean, just because I care and just because, I mean, the shoe it is, right? How
right. Yeah, $200,000.
I freaked the heck out. I remember the box was completely destroyed, and someone had just tape bombed it or like around it.
Wow.
It's funny. It's the DS donors that were still in there. So we were using a Purple Avenger SB as the donor, and they were still in there, and the Paris's insoles were in there, but the Paris was gone. So definitely interesting. It's funny. I mean, that's another part that a lot of people don't really factor in is shipping your shoes to me. It definitely can be risky if you don't do it the right way. I mean, I think for the most part, like not everyone's out to steal your stuff, So as long as you package things properly, but it just takes the wrong person. And honestly, I think as well in New York, I really do think that there's guys that know guys' names, know what to look for, know what things weigh, what here and there, because that box got. I mean, the Paris got stolen like very purposely. So, it definitely is interesting. It definitely is a bummer. It's definitely part of the reason why I'm actually starting to and trying to start flying some of these shoes back home, because that's what they
should. Well, yeah, they're $200,000 shoes, right? Makes sense.
Exactly. That's how they should be transferred. And for shipping wise, when you're talking about putting insurance on anything over $10,000, you're already looking
expensive.
At least bare minimum $100 label, bare minimum.
Yeah.
So
that's pretty cheap, actually.
it is extremely. You're completely right. That's probably an underestimate.
Right.
Actually, you're probably right. It's a super underestimate, to be completely honest. I just got a package from California. The guy shipped a pair of Tiffany's for $61 over here. So, which is already pretty crazy because.
I mean, for the Paris Dunks, I'm fairly sure we just had an issue at work with. I work in shipping, and I think FedEx will only go up to like $50K.
Yeah.
So if you're over that, like you're only getting that's the most you can get back off any shipment for FedEx. Yeah, I'm sure it's less with UPS, but.
Yep, and I've had guys, I have a guy that's been saying he's going to bring a Paris to me, like he wants to bring it to me because he doesn't want to ship it. I was like, totally understand that. So I've been trying to do that more, and that's something I did recently out in let's see, when was it? I guess it was January, sometime in January. I went to Got Souls in New Jersey, and had the opportunity to go see one of my customers out there. His name's Robert. He's got anything Player Edition, anything sample, just anything and everything. I've actually got a pretty crazy pair right behind me of his. But needless to say, I was taking back some of his SBs, and one of them was his Pigeon, which was super cool. Got to take an NYC Pigeon back home. Funny enough, that was actually one of the pairs that took me out to LA to my customer as well. So that pair is always a trip. It's always very fun. And another pair that's, that I don't know how many people can say they've worked on. I've worked on 4 of those now. So maybe not a massive amount, but in accordance to 200, it sounds like it. Yeah. This is the pair from Robert that I haven't, you can see that they're broken down still. This is a promo sample. It may not mean a whole lot to you if you don't know about shoes, but these are the Spike Lee Jordan 4s. I don't know exactly what they would go for in this condition, but I'd imagine this is $20,000 shoe at least, but we're still waiting on donors. We're going to use a Motorsport to swap these.
I was going to say, it looks almost exactly like the Motorsport, right? Except Spike Lee.
It literally is a Motorsport. Yeah,
same shoe.
Yep. That's why it's always amazed me that they cost so much, but it's a very sought after shoe to some people. To me, this wouldn't exactly be my grail, but it's a pretty shoe nonetheless. But yet again, just cool to see expensive shoes torn apart, right? So,
are you doing this all on your own, Jake, or do you have?
Yeah, everything you see is me. Everything you see, even the work itself, meaning everything's self-taught. I didn't learn anything from anyone. I mean, tips here and there. Of course, because who can get a tip here and there to learn some stuff? But everything else was self-taught.
When you
eventually, go ahead.
When you started, were you like just buying dunks to learn, like just ripping them, or?
Yeah, good question. So when I first started, in terms of like first starting, I was just cleaning. I was cleaning my own shoes. I had some basic, Vans, and then small, like I had some Saint Laurent, some just basic designer shoes that were pretty cooked, and actually made for some good content. And luckily enough, from there I took friends' shoes, sibling shoes, just did them for most of the time I would just tell them, just give me your shoes and let me clean them and I'll get them back to you really quickly. And it only took a few pairs of those and starting to post and just pushing it. And really, honestly, what people like pushing on people, enough to where you feel like you're annoying, that's when things are like going to start working out for you. You know what I mean? Because I remember, I don't do this nowadays. I constantly have DMs sitting constantly. I probably have, I never want to overestimate my requested, but there's probably like 25 or 30 messages in there. And it's just of people that I can't get back with nowadays. But back in the day, when I first started, I was hunting people down. If they mentioned they want to get work done, well, we're going to get the work done.
Yeah.
But needless to say, how I started was basically just cleaning. I honestly didn't leave the cleaning world. I was painting and icing and cleaning, like I said. But I didn't really leave that world and enter the glue world until I moved into my new spot, which it doesn't seem this is an unfinished basement, which is the perfect spot for me to work because it's just can get dirty and then be cleaned up really easily. But when I got here was when I was like, okay, I want to start focusing a little bit more on the glue, because I really think that, and something I really tell a lot of people when they're first starting to get into this, you like, even if you're doing the work, even if you are like practicing, I guess you can post your practice, but really you should keep practicing until you feel comfortable doing it. Do not take other people's stuff unless you know how to do it. Because I can't tell you how many people take people's shit and mess it up. And that's why I'm saying no to a ton of stuff, because there's still a ton of stuff that I am still learning. So, like if you gave me a Jordan 14 right now, it's to reglue, it's going to be a little tricky for me just because I've never done that.
Anyway, we don't mess with
well, first of all, but just an example of like, even me, someone that looks like they know what they're doing, and of course I do, know how the glue works and whatnot, but at the end of the day, like, there's so much to learn, and so that's why for specific things, when people hit me up for specific things, I'll send them specific people, I don't think that if you have a guy in your life that's working on shoes and he's just taking any and everything in terms of glue related stuff, I wouldn't expect the best finished product from him, to be honest, in my opinion. Now, someone to give you an example of who would also be phenomenal if you could ever convince him to give him some of your time is Flippin' Kicks. He's someone that I really see is in the exact same lane as me. I think that his stuff looks a little bit more professional because he's good with cameras. He's only like 2 or 3 years older than me, but he seems very much more like an adult. I'm still a kid adult, trying to become
an adult. Very much an adult. We are very mature on this show.
So, needless to say, though, he's another dude that, like, his skills, like, in terms of what he works on, his niche is really older stuff. Jordan 1, 85 Jordan 1s are his main niche. But in my opinion, he's the other guy that I see on my level in terms of just his craft being, in terms of him knowing what he does best and him focusing on that. Of course, he does a lot of other stuff and he takes a lot of other models, but he's done the work to do it,
Yeah. How many projects do you have going on at once? And then what's the flow? How long does it take? Like, obviously probably just depends on the shoe.
Yeah, no, good question. It really does depend on the shoe. So I have really avoided midsole swaps because they really take me too long in the process of things. But you've seen that Yeezy Plat behind me. That's a midsole swap. I'll have occasionally them in here, but most of the time we're just doing reglues, and it's on these SBs. I really don't mind taking other shoes, but mainly it's Forces and SBs. But right now I've got
see some calls back here.
I've got a pair of Kaws that we're supposed to be doing something with. So this is an interesting. I don't want to get into that. It's an interesting shoe. There's a bunch of pieces going on with that. But I've got a bunch of cleans. I've got about 8 cleans going on, and then 4 glue projects, and that's probably honestly my work for the week.
Okay. So you get all that done in a week.
Yeah, and to be honest, more will get done. And that's just the base level. And it kind of churns along. Like I try to. So I started all these glue projects pretty much today, prepping them. Tomorrow we're going to be laying down a bunch of glue on the sole and foam, so the first 2 parts. And then tomorrow evening I'll probably lay glue down on the rest of it, meaning the sole and the upper. And then Friday, does that mean Friday? Yeah, Friday we'll bond. No, Thursday we'll bond things, I think. But something like that. So I try to keep it. Typically my glue projects are like a 3 to 4 day long thing. Okay. So if I'm working on, like right now I'm working on 4 projects, it should take about 3 days. Like if I'm moving slower than that, then I'm moving a bit too slow. Okay. But typically I really try to have a group of 4 to 6 pairs in terms of reglues and try to do that within the week. Okay. And then cleans, whatever I have clean wise is getting done. So like I said, right now I've got about 8 to 10 cleans. But there's miscellaneous shoes all the time. I don't think people understand. That's another thing people don't understand. A lot of people still treat this like it's my hobby. This is not my hobby. Lots of times I don't even want to be doing this because, it's a burnout.
Yeah, man.
It's going to be that, especially with the environment that I've given myself, which is this cave. But I constantly have, we have at least 100 shoes here right now, at least. I don't think people really understand that there's always shoes here, and constantly a line waiting. So, but I've got, just to give you an example, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I've got 10 pairs that are going to go out on Thursday that I'm going to ship out. And those were all pretty much done last week. So all my glue projects I keep for a week after I'm done, just to make sure they're solid, and then send them out, just durability test them. I also don't trust guys that ship their glue projects out the day after they finish. Personally, from personal experience,
fair, man. Especially if I know it's not cheap what you're doing, and so it makes sense that you have some QA, I guess, right?
Yeah, definitely is not. It's definitely not exactly cheap. I definitely see what I'm doing as if you don't have extra money laying around, you don't need to be talking to me. Yeah. Because and that's not me saying.
Yeah, it's not arrogant, Matty. It's just like you have a service.
It's just like you shouldn't be worrying. Buying the shoes is one thing, but fixing them on top of buying them, unless you have the added expenses, exactly like you're saying, you just need to be smart about it. But you'd be amazed at how many people I have that even when I finish the work don't have the money, because that's another thing that I do that most people don't do. I don't take payment up front. I don't like to be my boss. So, and a lot of people, once they give you the money, they feel like the boss, in my opinion.
That's fair.
So I tell people, listen, I have a pretty set timeline. Typically, I tell everyone, if you have a shoe with me, typically I'm going to have it for 3 to 6 weeks. It definitely could be longer than that, and it definitely could be quicker than that. It literally just depends. And it also depends on what kind of mindset I'm in, because sometimes it's just long, Winter times are always going to be slower for me. That's always how it's been. And business-wise, it just is how it is. Q1 is always very slow. But needless to say, you're right. None of this is cheap, and I definitely want my customers to get the most out of it. That's why I try to make my communication I try to be as responsive as possible. There's so many restorers that don't get to their messages but once a week, and I totally understand that. And honestly, it's not a knock to them. There's so much going on that trying to keep track of it all it's absolutely hectic. And I don't even know how anyone bigger can do it, to be completely honest, because just at this level, it seems like a lot. So, and honestly, in this circumstance, having an assistant would be key, would be very, very nice right now, but I haven't figured out how I want to trust someone with that. It's funny, we mentioned Eli earlier. He has worked with me a little bit over the past 2 summers, just trying to figure out what that actually would look like in terms of having an assistant. So So I've been testing that out while he's here over the summer breaks. But just like you said, and like I keep touching on, yes, it costs a lot of money in terms of things, and I like to make sure that people feel comfortable and happy with spending that money. I don't want, and that's another thing. It coincides with, if you get a glue project back, I do this with almost all my glue projects. If anything goes wrong, if any sort of separation happens, or if anything just out of the blue happens, they're going to come back to me. I'll take care of it. That's kind of my built-in warranty with everything. Like I tell all my customers, if you're not happy with it, let me know. Yeah. And hopefully that's why I've been able to build the group of people that I work with still, because they see that, they know what's going on in my life. If you check in on my story, you're gonna know exactly what's going on. It's a little annoying how I do things, but I don't know if it's anxiety or what it is in me, but I like to lay.
There's not many people out there that do what you do, and so it's a special, right? You're like it's a very whatever, thoracic surgeon that's like really focused on that thing, and right. It's not like there's a one of you on every street corner, and so totally. You can either suck it up and get over it, or do what you want to do, right?
Totally.
But I'm sure in this arena, especially, the transparency that you have is probably much appreciated from people, because sneakers historically can be pretty shady, right? And when you're 100%. Dealing with all this this market that's, for the most part, before StockX at least, was completely unregulated. And now we're just getting into some form of regulation, not really like I mean, whatever you call StockX, but and so it's a shady business historically, and being transparent is probably very comforting for people too.
Well, I think what I learned when I was getting into this, so when I first got into this, one of the bigger guys recognized me, or I guess recognized my drive or whatever, and kind of clinged on to me, and was just giving me tips here and there. He was one of the guys that gave me some tips here and there, and funny enough, his customers started coming my way because they liked how I communicated, and they liked how I ran things, and I've taken a ton of customers from other people, and I'm not complaining about like, really, honestly, that's what I was trying to make a point to, is all the old heads, they're pretty good at what they do, but a lot of them stopped learning. And there's a lot to be learned still with a lot of these shoes. And not only did a lot of them stop learning, a lot of them don't think that they have to communicate the way that I do. Typically, if I have a DM from you, unless it's in my requested messages, if it's in my requested messages, who knows when you'll get to. To be honest, that's just a here and there kind of thing, trying to deal with the people that I've already got, going on. But most of the time, if you send me a message, I'm going to get to within 24 hours. Like, it's going to be gotten to. And if I don't, then I just have missed it. But honestly, those older heads, those guys are the guys that taught me a prime example of what I didn't really want to be, because I still, funny enough, I have a DM that I actually need to get back with, of a dude. I just posted 2 baby bears, and they were from the same customer. And funny enough, he has a third pair with another restorer, because I told him I couldn't re-dye them. He wanted them re-dyed, so he sent them to a restorer that I thought was personally, a good suggestion, and I think he is in terms of the work, but he still hasn't gotten out with my customer, and my customer is actually asking me to contact him. I'm like, bro, this is
how it works.
Yeah, I'm like, this is. I mean, I'm not talking on my customer's front. It's ridiculous that this guy won't just reach out to him and let him know, because most of the time, like I tell my customers, if you don't get a response from me, you don't hear from me, most likely I have not touched your shoe. Just most likely. If I've touched it, you're going to hear something from me. So that's why I tell my guys, whenever they're like, oh, this guy hasn't responded to me, I'm like, he hasn't touched he has not touched your shoe. Probably hasn't even started it. Probably a month out or so. So, so I learned a lot coming into this, that I just didn't want to be that way. It's funny. A lot of the old heads too, they just like you can see a little bit of ego, a little bit of zest coming from me. Those guys have a giant head on them, and they just think they're it, or they did at least. So, but yeah, I have been very beneficial. I think that my customers really like the way I communicate. I think it gets annoying after a while, but
Well, I can tell you're a marketing guy, and like that is very clear in everything you've said. So related to all this too, what would if a friend of yours was considering starting a business of any kind, like what are the top 3 things that you've learned so far that you'd advise people to know or do?
That's a good question. I mean, trying to think back, I think it really all depends on where the market is as well. Recently, ever since COVID happened, ever since not everyone became an influencer, but a lot more influencers are out there, a lot more content's going on online. I'm finding that it's actually a lot harder to find that niche. You know what I mean? Meaning, like, if I had just now gotten into restoring, there's so many people restoring nowadays that are much smaller, so you may not see them. I see them just because I'm in this world, but like there's a lot of people starting to do this. And what's funny is about 30% of my messages, maybe 25, some large portion though, is people strictly just hitting me up for questions, just asking how to do stuff, how to get work done. Which kind of leads me into another point of trying to figure out how to get some sort of paid group message or some sort of like Patreon.
Yeah, almost like a mentor, like, right?
Exactly.
Dude, when you were talking a minute ago, it feels like you should have an apprentice, like somebody that is watching. This is so random, but so there is only one guy, and I think it's in all of the Southeast that engraves silver.
Yeah.
And he just so happens to be in Lebanon, Tennessee. So if you want anything engraved, like there's no, and I've talked to this guy before. I was like, dude, why don't you have because he's an older dude. I mean, he's like 60. Like, what happens when he dies? Like, who else is going to learn how to engrave silver?
Yeah.
I mean, he's like one dude in the Southeast, right? And so that's when you were saying that, I was like, man, you should, whether it's Eli or somebody, it feels like you should be able to pass down that information, right? But you're also not a nonprofit. So how do you do that and not take up all your time?
Yeah, see, the hardest part is always going to be to find someone that has a relative same mindset as you. In my opinion, it's going to be hard to find someone that really people are going to see how much money you start making once you're doing this. If you have a good system going on, you can make a solid amount of money. Granted, recently, like I said, I move at a certain pace to where I'm trying to just keep things very mild. I don't need to be doing. I was before, like, 2021, 2022, I was nonstop working about 16-hour days, just about. I would literally would wake up and go to sleep at wake up at 10, work all day. I mean, I was treating my body like such trash. It was actually crazy, but I was only getting about 4 hours of sleep. But all that to say is the reason I'm here. So I'm not, bummed about that, but you're completely right. I should get someone underneath me just to learn. But in my opinion, you just got to find the sweet spot for that. And I think it's totally doable. It totally is doable. I just haven't found that quite yet, but I 100% agree with you. I just want someone that has that same drive, that would love to come over here and be doing that work for, still decent pay, but not exactly what the boss is making maybe, but it's hard.
I mean, it's your baby too, right? Like you nursed this thing from the ground up. And so how do you let somebody else come in and obviously there's going to be change with that no matter what, and no matter if they're as close to you as they can be, there's still going to be change in that and letting go. And so, that's a big change.
Totally. And also another thing is I'm super, a lot of people throw around like OCD. I'm not necessarily, I've not been diagnosed with that, but I am very, very meticulous about how things
are.
I'm particular. There you go. How about that? I'm very, very particular about how things are touched, how things are moved, how things are placed, how they're sitting, blah, blah, blah. Meaning, shoes, like I just see people touch things certain ways that just trigger me. I don't really know how to explain that. So all those kinds of things are just things that go in with making it harder to find someone that can help me out. Because I'm just really, honestly, I probably just have too high of standards but I know there's someone out there. I do. So it's just a matter of time. Really, I'm sitting on the edge here of something, meaning I'm not sure exactly what the next step is. I'm kind of getting tired of this same old system of doing the projects in and out, because just like I said, people still see this as like, they still see me and what I'm doing as a hobby. Just because they see it from the outside, they don't understand, that this is my full-time thing. And it probably doesn't help that I'm still working on my spot, but it doesn't make sense to have overhead with another place. But I agree. So I don't know. I've just been very blessed with what's going on, but I just want to pivot, and that coincides with traveling to work, traveling to drop off shoes. I'd like to start working for a different kind of clientele that also has me moving around the country a bit, but beggars can't be choosers. And at the moment,
well, let's talk about this. So we mentioned this a little bit before. Who are those people, like, in your dream top 5 of, like, if PJ Tucker called me, I'd poop my pants? Like, what does that look like for you?
So that's a good question. I think that my answer is gonna be a little here and there, because I think that those kinds of guys, as much as I do want to work with them, I do think they're interesting guys to work with. Celebrities and people with that kind of money don't act like me and you. In terms of getting things done. Now, some of them maybe the people that have kept their, I don't know, lifestyle changes everything for you, in my opinion. But still a valid question. I would love to work for Lil Yachty. I think someone like that is right up my alley. I could definitely jive with him. Definitely could. He's got all the kinds of shoes that I love. Him, 2J's Kicks, with JC, with Urban Necessities. He's 100% someone I would love to work with. And a lot it's funny, a lot of these like basketball boys, a lot of these guys actually do collect shoes. I'm not really sure I would love to work for them, just because don't get me wrong, I definitely would, but size 13 and 14s are pretty much always a nuisance to work on. Yeah, they're always a nuisance to work on. So that's why it would be more fun to work with a JC who's rocking an 8.5, 9. It's just easier. But Lil Yachty, JC, like I said, Offset, I would love to work with Offset. I think that, like I said, I think a lot of these guys, it's not that I'm a fan of them. I'm never the type of person to want to meet people. I don't even really care to go to their shows or anything, but I do like the idea that we share a mutual love
interest. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And that's another thing that I think that's good about me in terms of working with higher end people. I'm not gonna be doting. I just want to work on the shoes and talk about the shoes. It's
not a flex. It's not an Instagram flex. Hey,
right. It literally would just be me, like, we're here talking about more shoes. We're working on more shoes. You know what I mean? It's just, I don't know how to explain it. That's all I would really want. And to just show off those shoes, that's part of what I love about what I do, is I get to show people the stuff that they don't really get to see. And in abundance.
Let me hold on. I'm going to pause you there. You've talked about some of these. I don't know if Hayes has seen these. I wrote down some of the stuff that I went through on your Instagram.
Yeah.
Man, we're talking about you had the Quasimodo highs, right? Mm-hmm. There's rumored only 50 pairs of those in the world. This is just for some of our listeners who aren't up on it. Zoo York Dunks, you've had those twice, is that right, or once?
I had the Quasis twice and the Zoos 3 times.
Okay. Paris Dunks, 200 ever made. The Zoo York was like a rumored 444 ever made.
Yep.
Dior ones. Let's see what else. Air Max 1 Atmos, the elephant print.
20 of those as well.
What's that? Osaka Dunks, right, from the Japan pack.
Yeah, those are awesome. That's a beautiful pair. That was a pair that I wanted to work on for a long time, and it finally came in. Awesome pair.
Oh, yeah. What the Dunks, we talked about that a little bit. You've had 10 or more of those, right? There's only 300 of those rumored ever made.
I think I've actually worked on about 30 plus pairs of those.
Holy moly.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know. In terms of reglues, I've done right over 10, probably 11.
Wow.
In terms of cleaning and stuff, all the rest.
And then here's some of the crazier ones I thought of too. The Air Force One Entourage, the Drake OVO Air Jordan 4s. That was that what size was that? 11? Was that a size 11? Do you know
what size it was? Let me see. I think for some odd reason I was almost thinking it was my size, which is a 9.5, but it was somewhere in between that. It definitely wasn't that small, so maybe it was an 11. That would make more sense.
So just for reference, an 11 sold at auction, I don't know how long ago, for $32,000, which is crazy. Could have been the same ones. And then the Dornbecker Superman 4s.
Yep. That I have
crazy.
Those.
You have a ton of those?
Well, let me rephrase that. I've had a ton of those. I actually have a pair of those currently. Or mentioning them. See, that's the funny thing is you can mention pretty much anything, and it's probably somewhere near or was.
This is wild.
But just that list of that's exactly what I'm talking about. People don't understand those Entourage Air Force Ones. I've worked on 2 of those. Beautiful. Those are honestly some of my favorite Air Forces ever. Yeah.
Nice. Wow.
Man, that is
very
nice shoe. Hayes, you got anything negative to say about these Dornbeckers?
No, those are fine. Most Dornbeckers look like, not to talk bad about kids with cancer. I'm not.
Well, listen, that's the point. They're kids, so I mean,
yeah. But most of them, let's be real.
It's hit or miss, right?
It's miss and one hit every 20 years.
Okay, let's rephrase that. I mean, really, the only DBs that I love a lot. Well, there's a laser engraved DB Dunk that I like a lot. Those, of course, the 4s. I mean, I think everyone kind of loves the 4s just because they see them all the time. And the 3s, the red 3s with the I like those
big
a lot.
3 guy.
Yeah, those are super nice. I actually think that might be the nicest DB in terms of materials and whatnot. But
hey, while we've been talking, I think I came up with a possible solution that will help you with your friends that think this is just a hobby.
Yeah.
And it's not your full-time job. Maybe what if you started telling people that you were a cobbler?
Yeah, okay. They probably would take me more seriously then.
I'd be like, hey, bro, hey, I'm not just doing this for fun. I'm actually a cobbler. And they go, what? Cobbler. I have a shop on the side of the road.
It's funny. I think my great aunt or great uncle asked me if I was cobbling. I was like, that's something
Heck yeah. I'm cobbling. Yeah, man. I'm cobbling all the way
that's
to
funny.
town.
I went to a cobbler. The only time I've ever been to a cobbler was while I was doing this. It was with a Yeezy 750 with the zipper up the side. Mm-hmm. I could not figure out the zipper. Zippers are out of my repertoire. And I took it over there, and I believe, if I remember correctly, they got it fixed. But that was the only time I've ever been there. It's so funny because those guys, they've been doing this for forever. Like, that's all, that's a profession that's been around for a century,
Well, let me ask you this. How quickly do you think you could change a horseshoe?
I guess I would have to get good with horses first.
Okay. You don't have any experience with horses or equestrian gear?
Hayes, is this going to some news that you sent in recently?
No, it's perfect segue, but no, that was not intentional.
Have
you seen this, Jake?
I'm not sure. I didn't see this exact picture, but I have seen a picture of horseshoes going around. It is very funny.
How about this? This is a Jordan 4 built for a horse. And this was a video, if I'm not mistaken. So you could watch the horse actually not gallop, maybe trot. Trot in them. I don't know.
That seems cruel. But I don't know horse feet like that. So
I'm not a rocket scientist or definitely not a marketing genius, but I feel like I'm on to something with this cobble thing. I think it might.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think you are. I do think the younger generation is funny because I bet the younger generation doesn't even know what that word.
No, they don't. They'd probably think it's some weird OnlyFans thing, right?
They probably do. I mean, I don't really know what else. You're not wrong.
I don't think I'm wrong, but I do. I think I'm on to something. I mean, I could be way off base. All right, hey, let's switch gears a little bit. So what shoes do you personally have left in your collection? Because as I understand it, you sold all your collection to get tats. Is that what we did here?
Yeah. So I don't know how long ago this was. Probably getting close to 2 years. Maybe it was a year and a half ago. But I used to have I'm trying to think, just all the basic SBs really in terms of like modern hype. I had your Travis Scott SBs, your Grateful Dead Green Bears. I had, funny enough, I had a few pairs of Stingwater SBs that were more recent. I love that pair. I had the entire Supreme High collection, which I loved a lot. The entire Supreme Low collection, which I loved a lot. SBs were mainly the only thing that I was collecting. And I've kind of had just here and there everything. I've had a Heineken before. I've had just, like I said, all the pairs.
Newcastles?
I never had Newcastles.
Yeah, that's a great for me. I want them.
Never had Newcastles.
Always if I wanted them.
Love Newcastles. Newcastles is one of those shoes that they hold up really well. That's a shoe I do love. I just never got myself around to buying them. I actually, with my friend, when we got soles recently, we bought a pair of those in good condition. So,
okay,
definitely a pair I love. But yeah, I think I was just, it makes me very anxious trying to, knowing that all my shoes are kind of in the state that all of these shoes were in. So, you know, it's just was a bit too much for me to try to maintain all of that and maintain all of this and have a chunk of change sitting in shoes. Really at the time, it was just honestly a good way for me. It was a good investment. Instead of putting money in the stock market, I was just buying shoes at a good price and holding on to them. And definitely kind of came out of the market at a horrible time. So kind of came out breaking even, but you know, and funny enough, I think I only came up on one shoe. I had the, I used to have the CPFM crystal, crystal shoe.
Oh yeah.
And that was the only pair that like went up in value for me. Everything else kind of just stayed where it was. That pair is a monster in terms of value.
I only know Nashville Man Mason has those. He's the only person that I've seen those from.
Yeah.
So what did you scale? I mean, what do you have left? Where did you sell them all?
I sold them all. So what do I have left? I just have a bunch of miscellaneous casual active wear shoes. And then really my only two, you know, I guess you'd say heaters. I have Travis Scott Phantoms that I actually bleached all the black panels on. So they're all kind of a hazy rust color. I'm not really sure how to explain it. I have it posted on my Instagram. And I'm not sure exactly where it is.
I'll find it for you, Hayes.
Yeah, find it. I was
and then I have my Travis Scott Fragments and One Lows. And that right there is, I don't want to say my favorite shoe ever, but in terms of just ease of wear, in terms of just simplicity.
Goes with everything.
That is, you know, I will say that it's probably one of my favorite Jordan 1 Lows ever. I mean, it's perfect. It's perfect. Materials are solid. Everything's held up very well. Like I said, I've worn them for a long time now. I'm not sure how long they've been out, but I've worn them since they've come out, and they're still in great shape. It's a shoe that I love because I know I'll be able to wear it until I'm done with it, and then sell them for probably $1,000 or something like that.
Yeah, that's stupid.
It's just something stupid after how much wear I put into them. I find it dumb, but if market provides,
there he goes. He found it.
That's it. Yeah.
Okay.
That's it. So, I mean, that's another thing, unfortunately, with me. Well, it's fortunate and unfortunate. I get very bored with my own shoes when they're sitting around. Hence, just to me, it was another reason to get rid of these things before I start going AWOL on them, because that's just kind of what I do. I mean, my foam runners, I had a pair of foam runners. I dyed those things purple, and just a bunch of different shoes that I've just kind of cut up or painted or done miscellaneous things. I actually have a pair of I've got a lot of shoes over here that I can show you, but I've got a pair of let me just move you really quick. I've got a pair of Yeezy 1s that I'm thinking about doing a project with. This is a shoe that sat with me for, I don't know. The customer didn't hit me back up after about half a year, and oh man, that happens around here. Believe it or not, people will go ghost you. But I've got these bad boys.
Oh my goodness!
They were here for a midsole swap, but I'm thinking about. Now I'm not sure if this is sacrilegious for some of our sneaker listeners, but I think I'm going to turn these into. There was an all black colorway of this. There was a sample. So I think I'm going to actually do that to these. Just
wait, time out. So is there like a certain amount of time that goes by and then like it's unclaimed property basically?
Yeah. I mean, they're definitely okay. So, I mean, I definitely say that if you don't pay me within a week, then we start doing a little bit of a holding fee. Cause like I told you, if you don't have expendable income, if you send me shoes, I expect you to have the money ready for it. You know? And how explicitly clear I am in terms of shipping dates. There's no excuse not to be ready to pay me.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm trying not to be a hard ass here, but
you're not a nonprofit, man. That's what I mean. That's what it comes down to. It's a business still. Just because you enjoy what you do doesn't mean it's not intended to make money. That's not right.
I think you hit the nail on the head right there, because I think people see that I care. So they,
this is why you got to brand yourself as a freaking cobbler, and then all that will go away.
The cobbler.
You're not wrong. Not wrong. But this pair, this customer just stopped hitting me up.
What?
I contacted them, and I don't really know how to explain it. It just kind of fell through, and now I
stupidest thing I've ever heard. That's probably how much are those shoes? $10,000?
I don't know. I don't know exactly. Well, in this condition, I'm not sure, but you could probably get this kind of worn condition for that would need work for probably like $2,000, somewhere right around there. I'd imagine.
That's not what I expected.
Yeah, the market has fluctuated on these Yeezys heavily. I mean, especially because all these Yeezy ones need work. If you buy a Yeezy one that looks solid, if it looks really good, then it definitely needs work. If it's beat, then it may be able to get away with not having work, which is funny. Just goes if the shoes have been worn, they'll last longer.
Okay. Yeah, dead stock, they're like $10,000. So
yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Dead stock's a better example.
Got
it. But yeah, this is just a prime example of what I meant by, like, if I have something too long and it sits here and it's mine, which now these are technically mine.
Wow.
Something's gonna happen to them. So
are they your size?
Yeah, they are my size.
Oh my God.
So that's why I was thinking that I'm gonna put a black midsole on them. I'm gonna dye them black, paint the patent leather black, and the promo has, which I've always found very cool and unique. There's actually a stitch line here. So just like on your 3s and 4s, how they're stitched around the toe, all Yeezy ones aren't stitched around the toe, but the promo, one of them at least, there's quite a few promos, but one of them is stitched, and I want to do that really bad because I've always thought it was cool, and the stitch line's there. It's just the stitch is not in it. So, which is funny. People, you know, unless you're doing this kind of work, you would never think about that line being anything but like a design, choice. But really, that's when I see that, I think thread should be in there. So, so yeah, just like that. That's a prime example of when things sit too long with me that are mine, they're gonna get touched somehow. So, but yeah.
Wow.
But yeah.
Hey Mason, you got some quick hits?
Yeah, I do. This has been fantastic though. Before we get into our rapid fire, but we just have a quick run of the mill rapid fire that we pretty much ask everybody, and I think we're gonna have some interesting responses here. But let's see what's up first. All right, do you own any of the brands down here? Can you see that?
I do own some Hokas.
Well,
you're a runner, right?
Yeah, I like.
It would make sense that I'm not going to judge you because
fair.
he's a runner. He's said that that's a family thing.
Yeah. See, not to make your rapid fire long, but
No, you're fine.
I love wearing my Jordans. I love wearing these shoes. When I was working super long hours, I was wearing my Military 4 blues. I love those things so much, but I wore them around. But I was wearing those so much. I was wearing them so much so that they don't have any breathing holes on the toes. I was having massive foot issues, not necessarily my feet smelling. I'm talking about like them actually starting to fall apart. So so I started getting some more comfortable shoes, some shoes I could just like wear while I was working, and they kind of made me fall in love with Hoka while also running in them. So as ugly as they are, on that standpoint, comfort wise, I like them. So
this one time, Jake, right during COVID, I went on this binge and bought all kinds of stuff, right? And I was purging at the same time, I guess.
Yeah.
And Mason, this makes me sick to my stomach, but it's true. I took my box of Military Blue 4s, and I put them in the trash can. And I feel so stupid because they're one of my favorite shoes of all time. It was.
I think I was with you the last time you wore those. The Jay-Z concert, right?
Probably were. Boy, what an idiot! I didn't know about you though. I should have had them resold and all that.
Definitely sad, but I guess fortunately this year's your year because
they're coming back.
They're releasing. That's definitely a pair I'll double up on for sure.
Probably so.
All right, so pro Hoka. What would your power rankings then be? Or I guess your what's the opposite of power rankings? So Hoka's number 4 on your suck rankings. What about the other three?
It goes Hoka. What is the first one? I can't remember. My girlfriend has a pair of those.
On Cloud?
On Clouds. It probably goes Hoka On Cloud Crocs. I don't know Hey Dude, so they probably last just because I don't know them.
They should be last.
Hey Dude is definitely last on or first on the suck rankings if you want to say it that way. Shout out to the guy who sits behind me at work. Every Friday he's got those Hey Dudes on. I mean, I don't know if he wears them. He might wear them during the week, but man, every time I want to say something.
You know, I can put on this list as well as Allbirds.
Oh,
100%.
Good call. Good call. I definitely missed that.
we could actually. Hoka's got a purpose if you're a runner.
That is true.
I'm tracking.
Hoka and Brooks are there.
Hoka, Brooks, Mizuno, maybe. Okay, so we could replace Hoka with Allbirds, and this would be a.
Yeah.
Okay, I got a hypothetical.
Hey, dude, go for it, Hayes. You go.
So a hypothetical. You know, I walk into your basement, and I've got my some Lightning McQueen Crocs that are beat, and I'm like, hey, Jake, I want you to restore these. What would you say?
So most of the time in that kind of circumstance, I'm going to tell them. I always preface because people will take it heavily in offense if they matter to them. I always ask if they have any sort of personal meaning to them or anything. Sweet. Then solid, let's rock with it. Otherwise, you're wasting me and your time.
Great, that's an honest answer.
Yeah. That's
what I thought about that.
I had someone with a pair of Cinnamon Toast Crunch Crocs hit me up like 2 weeks ago, and the strap was broken. I was like, I think you need to go get a new pair, my friend, if you want to replace those, that is.
Here's
you handled it kinder than I would.
Yeah, this is a Hey Dude.
Okay, that is definitely at the bottom of my list for sure.
Yeah, that is. I think that should be number one on the suck rankings for
me. Shoe that the heel slips down like that, I despise.
Yeah. We generally have a rule that if you can easily get your pair next day from Amazon, like that's not a shoe. That's not a shoe that this podcast rocks with. And in fact, if you wear those, you can feel free to not listen to the show and not tell your friends. That's the kind of person.
I didn't have a slide for this one, but thoughts. This is more for Hayes's wheelhouse. Thoughts on shoes with fur.
I like so it depends, but it took a while for it to grow on me. But I like all shoes like that.
What?
Yeah, I do. That was one of my favorite pairs that I had. I had a super clean pair of Papa Bears. The baby bear, Papa Bear, Mama Bear trio is, I mean, to me, they're up there with the Supreme set.
Wow.
Yeah.
So Hayes, I do have a question because I thought about this while in the middle. Do you what's your thoughts on the Grateful Dead dunks? Do you like those, Hayes?
Yeah, they're not very furry. It's more like a felt, right?
It's not fur. They're a little bit different. I agree.
Yeah.
Okay.
Look, if you have a texture on your shoe that could be confused for pubic hair, I'm not down. It's a pass for me.
That's fair. The one thing I would say for those things is people are always so scared about like, how do I clean this and whatnot. It's funny, like typically those panels are actually the easiest out of that entire shoe. Most of the time what you're really gonna have a problem with, because most of the time those hairy pairs are suede. They're almost never just leather and hair. It's gonna be suede and hair. And you're really gonna mainly have problems with the suede panels more so than the hair. Once you know how to clean suede, it's pretty easy, but
you gotta like brush the hair out.
Yeah,
you gotta get like a comb.
Yeah, you actually can. I'm always just using my suede brush. A suede cleaning kit is a great tool to have. Oh,
man. All right, last of our not so rapid fire, which is how it usually turns out. Fakes. Give us your spiel on what you think of fakes.
Yeah. So honestly, so I really don't care about fakes at all. I don't care if you're wearing fakes. My only thing is, and I think lots of people say the same thing, at least if the people I've come across, as long as you're not like purposely trying to come across as like legitimate. If you enjoy the shoe, which honestly, in my opinion, like some of these shoes I really enjoy, right? Like let's just say Chicago Jordan 1 Low. That's a pair of shoes I really like, right? Very straightforward, super clean colorway. Can I get it for under a band in good shape? Absolutely not. Why is that? That is dumb. That is very dumb, in my opinion. It's a very basic shoe. Now, if someone want to go and buy a fake pair of those just because you love it and you love the colorway, go do it. Well, no skin off my back. But if you're going to go around telling all your friends that you've got them and they don't, you know, and not tell them, oh, I've got a link for, you can get them for $100 rather than $1,000, that's messed up, in my opinion. But I have no problem with it. I mean, who are you cheating? Nike? In terms of like cheating people out, I don't care. They're not a small business. Nike can eat it. But as far as like trying to flex them, I don't mess with that. And I don't mess with like, you know, trying to sell them online to people. Like, I think that hurts the community. That hurts you. That makes the people buying the shoes. It turns them off to that. And that's one of the main reasons I started getting into shoes. Like I said, bought a few shoes. A few of them were fake, and it really turned me off to the whole thing. Granted, of course, I'm still here and I was still buying shoes, but and also my experience with having to use these replicas as donors, you know, getting them in, like, you know, I don't know, I don't even have a problem with them seeing the type of condition they are, seeing the type of quality there, I should say, because lots of them are getting scary to where they're like 1-to-1. So I guess it's just here or there. It really depends on how you're buying them and using them, I guess.
I have never thought of the element of screwing the big company.
I mean,
and that is my style. I've never thought of that. I'm the ultimate. I am the ultimate screw the big. I'm that. I'm the rebellious. Will do anything to screw the big man most of the time.
I totally feel you. I mean, like, listen, all these GR pairs that come out nowadays, like, especially during the 2021 to 2022 era, 2020 to 2022, like, if you were buying reps of these, like, basic GRs that were coming out, I totally understand it. Because you want to know why? The market was so hyperinflated that a basic GR was $400 to $500. That is just so dumb. It hurts my brain, in my opinion. Why on earth am I buying a black military 4 for 4 times their retail value? Why would I do that? That's so dumb. I don't see that. When in reality, a lot of those shoes, those basic GRs, they're being bought to be worn into the ground. Not everyone just buys these shoes to keep them clean. Now, some people do, but lots of times, like I said, those military blues that I have, beat them into the ground. I'm not even going to try and restore them. I'm not going to, because I've worn them so hard. There's no point. So why spend so much?
I have never ever thought of that, Jake, and I'm a little bit embarrassed. And that, in all seriousness, that might be the best argument for a person like me that I've ever heard for fakes. Because even coming in that question, I was like, fakes are stupid. I would never ever, like, that's my brain immediately goes, but you have opened my head to, if I can screw the big man a little bit.
I definitely don't disagree with you. I definitely think that people need to get their priorities straight. Really, honestly, a lot of it comes down to that. Like, you don't need this shoe. You need to breathe and have, enjoy your 2 or 3 shoes. But at the end of the day, in my opinion, that is the best way to look at it, because it's just like, a lot of these shoes, they can make millions of, or hundreds, and much more, double the quantity, triple the quantity. Why are they chokeholding the consumers, and especially when the consumers have doubled at least since 2020? So I don't know completely, but that's how I look at it. And like I said, a lot of working with these replicas has opened my eyes in terms of just how decent they are. I mean,
I think my first foray into this is going to be the Newcastles. I'm going to find a fake Newcastle. You did?
You know what? You should. You can even DM me. I've got a lot of good links to replicas, and these older SBs. It's funny. These older SBs, a lot of them are just now getting mastered and done well in terms of replicas, because the replicating power just wasn't there back in the day. Like you get replicas of like and lots of people, the niche for SBs was so much smaller, so there wasn't a need to make so many replicas. That's why you see one of the only replicas, or one of the heavy replicas that you see is the What the Dunk. There's a lot of fakes of that, and that's because that's one of those shoes, just like the Pigeon, that was seen so much that people actually sought after. But just like a Newcastle back in the day, they probably weren't even making reps of that. Nowadays, I don't know when the last time I've seen one, but I do know that they are, because they, just like the Doom. You know, what's funny is the Doom, MF Doom replica. So most pairs, because the bottom oxidizes and turns yellow. I actually have a pair of those right now. I could show you, but they turn yellow, right? So the inlay, it all just looks really, really gnarly in terms of the yellowing. And the only donor that I've ever gotten from that, actually, the sole was fully yellow. And really, the sole is supposed to be fully clear. But they're replicating what they see now, right? And so every single pair has a yellow sole, so the replicas have yellow soles, because people over in China don't, you know, they don't care about the SB culture. They don't care what it used to look like. It's just what it looks like now. So I don't know.
Interesting. Wow.
It's just funny. But it's just interesting. That's all it is. It's interesting. So,
yeah.
Mason, I have one more question too. If you got anything.
No, I've actually, I could go like another hour. So yes, I could, but I'll let you go with the final question.
Yes.
What is the dopest pair of shoes you ever cut grass in?
You know, it's funny. Probably, you know, what's funny. I'm not entirely sure what you know what? I'll go ahead and tell you my story that I just actually use a example of. Was I actually bought a pair of those Chicago Lows, to a replica of those, to do household stuff in and cut grass in. So that was like my grass cutting shoe. Really, honestly, other than that, I probably have just been doing Vans. So,
okay.
But yeah, I like to keep it simple there, because everything gets destroyed in the grass. And then once it's worn in the grass, it's kind of hard to bring it back, at least from the smells of it all.
That's fair. When you're saying that was your first business, I've been wanting to ask you that this whole time. I was like, I wonder if you.
Yeah, I got very fortunate that my dad pushed me into that. So
that's a still dripping culture thing. Is like, what shoes have you cut grass
cutting
in?
Shoes.
Is grass cutting shoes?
Yeah,
well, that became grass cutting shoes.
Yeah, most of my shoes were like actually like Nike Roshes.
Yeah, Roshi. Yeah,
yeah. I like those. Those were such an awesome shoe back in the day. It's crazy how it's changed, you know. I wonder what they feel like now compared to like comfortable shoes nowadays. But those things used to be it.
Yeah, they still hold up. I still I have a pair up on eBay, but I wore them the other day. I was like, hey, these I might take them off.
It's so one now. Granted, I'm not real experienced in this, but I am on a fake site, or rep site. The weird part is, like you could just get the real shoe for retail on a lot of these, and there will be less money. That's kind of odd.
Yeah. So I think that all goes in the R&D of it all, in terms of like actually making the pairs. That's why I think it also does. It does depend on what you're buying, because you're right. Lots of the pairs, lots of good fakes are over retail, which is kind of
really interesting.
It is weird as well, especially because it's not like it's quick shipping either. Now, based on the website you're looking on, it may be easier. The guys that I work with are not. Most times, the reps that I'm getting are not coming from a website. They're coming from individuals who are working within the factory. Just because they're getting, like most of the time, like websites, like rep sites like Mangum or DHgate or whatever else is like that. That's kind of in the big, just pumping out shit. They don't have as high quality of reps, or as like the most recent batch per se, because lots of these shoes, even like the Yeezy ones I've been working on a lot, like even over the past 3 years, the reps have like they've gotten better and better each time they've come out. So yeah, it is annoying, but I think it's just a lot of like having to change shoes constantly. So kind of makes sense that they're that much. Yeah. It is annoying now.
Very interesting. All right. Well, you've opened my eyes. Go ahead, man.
I'm glad. And like I said, if you need a better link, I've got that.
Okay. I'll figure it out. I haven't committed yet, but I'm not as, I would say I'm 51 leaning that way now.
Wow.
And 49. I'm telling you.
You've done the impossible.
My only thing with buying,
and that's no bull crap. Like, I'm not kidding. As soon as you said that, I was like,
my only thing with reps, literally the only downside to reps, in my opinion, just because I know what's going on, is the glue is just like, in terms of the sole being glued on around the sidewalls, it's always going to be solid. And even Nike's gotten bad at this recently. The underfoot bed of it all, it's like just not all glued in. I don't even know how to explain it. It like is, but it's not. So you're basically getting the same quality as you're getting from the big company. So I guess you're not. I guess it's not that bad of a thing, actually. But that's just something I've realized with reps when they come in, that typically, like, you can see some flexibility in the footbed of it all. But like I said, other than that, they wear and look pretty dang solid. So
all right, it's great, man. Well, dude, this has been so fun.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on. We will definitely have you back on, and hopefully next time we can all get together at Hayes has a little spot we usually can record in, so hopefully we can do that. Man, I would just say it's been a total pleasure to have you on. You've been very easy to talk to over Instagram, and hopefully we continue a relationship with you, and I love where your journey's gone, and can't wait to keep watching you and following you. So again, thank you. I don't know why you chose to come on here and spend an hour and a half of your life, but I hope it was as worth it for you as it was for us, because it was pretty awesome. I think I can speak for Hayes too.
Well, I greatly appreciate it. And why I decided to take time is because I like talking about shoes, just like I said. So I mean, as you can tell, I could literally sit here and talk for hours. So it's not hard for me to do this. So anytime you want to have me on, I would love to swing by.
Oh man, yeah, we can get into all sorts of stuff.
I'll bring a whole duffel bag or big box of shoes to show you. You see all this stuff in hand, because
all right,
plenty of it.
All right, bet.
Sounds like a plan.
Man, well, let's see, Hayes, what'd you learn today?
I learned that you never know when you're going to run into people that you have things in common with that are just easy to talk to, like you've met them before.
Yeah,
and that's a rare thing. And fortunately for us, it happens a lot because we all like the same stuff, and we got a starting place, right? It's a community, and I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah, I don't know if I can top that. Yeah, the similarities. I mean, we all love sneakers. We knew that was what coming on the pod, but I bet our listeners would be surprised that we have never, other than like 2 private messages to you, we have never talked before. And this was a very comfortable, easy conversation, and a bunch of firstborn Nashville natives jumping on the pod, and it was just smooth flowing, and that's genuinely why what brought me into sneakers was realizing I love the designs of sneakers, but I guess what kept me in sneakers is when you see somebody that has a cool pair of sneakers on, and you reach out to them and you say something, and you just start a conversation, and it's usually with people that I would have never met otherwise, right? And so I think that's really cool that this is just something that brings us together. It's about a lot more than sneakers, and I really just want to say thank you again for coming on, and
Indeed.
We will definitely have you back on in the future. So we look forward to that.
Anytime. You just let me know. Anytime. I'm flexible.
Boy.
I'm working for myself, so anytime.
There you go.
We've said final question a few times, but this is truly the last question we have of the night. Do you freestyle?
Like rap?
Yeah.
God, I really don't. I'm so bad at it. Are you gonna make me do that right now?
Oh, if you would, we would love it. You don't have to, but Hayes is gonna start, and you can cut
Jake,
in.
don't feel bad. Just play whatever you got, Mason.
Yeah.
All right.
And maybe
it's not professional.
Oh, I don't like this. I was feeling it. Okay.
Hayes made all these beats, by the way.
I'm white as a bucket of mayonnaise. I spread it on my bread. I'm about to eat a ham sandwich. I'm manwich. I'm bamwich. Panwich. See how good I flow, Jake? I'm like a baking a cake, raking some leaves. I'm raking the leaves and then I'm putting in some mulch beds. I got a raised bed. I'm gonna plant some tulips and some irises. I'm from Tennessee. That's a state flower. Tulip poplar is the state tree. I got a catfish in my back pocket. I'm frying up some catfish and now I'm going on the blacklist. And now I'm flowing again because I got my mayonnaise back. I left eating mayonnaise just by the jar. It's Hellman's, yeah.
Oh my god. How am I supposed to follow that up?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. I have no idea. You're gonna have to catch me next time.
We'll catch you next time. Thank you all. This is episode 157 of the Still Drippin' Happy Hour. We'll see you next week. Peace.
I'm pretty sure I just